ask, your daughter's getting of the age for these books now, so I just want to know overall what did she think?
She's been the age for these books from the beginning.
Yeah, yes, I know how that goes. I'm wondering how she thought about your portrayal of Arrow, and also, is there a character in history or in a book that she has told you she hopes you'll play someday?
That she hopes that I'll play someday.
She'd like to see you play.
Which, when I first told her that I was going to be playing Arrow, she, and this was a good lesson actually, because she said that Arrow's bald, completely bald, and I realized, I see, everyone gets their own idea of the characters. That's the thing, and I thought it was going to be, she'd be really excited when I said that I was going to be in it, but in fact she was really annoyed, because it was her thing. She was, I think about 8 at the time or something. And if someone had come along when you were 8 years old and gone, I'm going to take that thing that is really special to you, that you think is yours, and I'm going to take it away from you. It's going to be mine now. And so I kind of slightly underestimated the effect on it. But she got very excited about it eventually. But you do realize that, with the people who are really big fans of the books, nothing can beat what you imagine in your head, really. So even though I wasn't a bald Arrow, hopefully she still kind of liked it. And a character that she would like me to play, I don't know, I think she'd probably just like me to carry on playing her father, probably. She's had enough of all the acting, Yeah, just be around as much as possible.
Hi.
Hi.
Arrow is obviously a very scary vampire in the grand scheme of things.
No,
but
not at all.
I was going to say, I think you play him with a bit of an edge of comedy, too. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Well, one of the things I always liked about the character, as Stephenie had sort of written and hinted at in the book, I suppose, and I took it a bit further, was the idea that he's just this sort of, he thinks of himself as being this sort of sentimental old fool and just enjoys watching the young people having fun, and then likes to kill them. So I like the idea of someone who, instead of just being kind of, the big bad guy or whatever, there's something a bit more fun about him. And also the idea of someone who's been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. I would imagine the biggest problem is you just get bored. Like that, who wants to live forever? It's just really boring. And so he has to come up with things to kind of allow him to enjoy, anything that's new is kind of interesting, as well as being quite threatening. It's quite interesting as well, because at least it's something different. And so I like the idea of someone who's constantly trying to amuse themselves as well. And then that kind of brings a little bit more humor to it, I guess, which is kind of good. And then I think hopefully also, and especially in this film, it allows the moments when it really is kind of horrible to be more chilling, I suppose. Like, I really creep myself out in this film. And I don't usually, but there are moments in it where, you see the character, you suddenly see how much he enjoys the violence and just the general meanness, and there's like the smile or the kind of insanity of him really that's going on underneath, and so keeping it kind of light and playful for a lot, it kind of really helps them when you go for the more sort of nasty moments, I suppose.
I have a kind of weird here, the front row. Hi.
Hello.
I have a kind of weird questions. Whenever I see the Arrow, it's he's a vampire. He doesn't blink, but you're human, and you have to wear the right contact lenses. Whenever I wear the contact lenses, I blink so much.
No, I'm wearing contact lenses now. I'm wearing my human being contact lenses. And they cast me because I actually do have red eyes. It's just a little weird quirk that for once in my career I could actually not have to wear contact lenses, which is kind of handy.
What's so challenging?
It is. I mean, listen, having anyone fiddle with your eyes is not what you want to be happening first thing Monday morning, really, is it? So, having the lenses. But in the Underworld films, I'd had to wear lenses as well for when I sort of transformed into the werewolf. And also in Tron, I had to wear contact lenses as well. But these ones, I'd never worn them for that long before, wearing them all day. And the ones, annoyingly, the ones that I had to wear had to be, as I used to remind all the rest of the cast, were bigger than everybody else's, because they wanted to affect my entire eyeball rather than just the iris. So rather than just changing the colour with the Cullens and with the other Volturi, they wanted to, because I was supposed to look much older, so it affected the rest of the eye. So they're like golf balls, like half golf balls, that in order to get them into your eyes, you have to have someone lifting the eyelid, the top eyelid, just to put the first bit of it in, and then lift the bottom part of the eyelid to get the rest of it in. And the whole time, human beings are not meant to have things shoved in their eyes. So everything in you is kind of trying to resist it and stop it. But you also know that the more you fight it, the more they're just going to have to take it out and just do it again, because I'm not getting, I used to say, can't you just CG my eyes at the end or something? But then once they're in, then you have to kind of just relax and let them get in. And then you have to have someone with you all day, because they have to put drops in and make sure it doesn't dry out. And so everything goes a sort of a pinkish hue, and you don't have much, you don't have much peripheral vision, and it does affect your vision. So I would just go very quiet all day, which kind of helped the character, I suppose, but I would, because if I allowed myself, I would go into hysteria at any point. So having that kind of slightly contained hysteria all day was quite good for the character, really. So, use everything. Always acting, always working, always alive to the possibilities.
Bruce Kirkland, Toronto Sun. I think you just creeped me out more with that story than even in the movie.
Yeah, it is the creepiest thing.
Ooh, But for a second, I'd love if you took a step back from your character and tried to look at the entire 5-film, 4-book series, maybe through your daughter's eyes, as to what a twihard, if we're allowed to use that phrase here, what a twihard gets out of the entire book and movie series, because you've been so intimately involved with them. I'm curious if you have a reflection on that.
Well, I think in some ways I've had quite a peculiar position with the films, because I've come in and out with them. So I'm not like like Rob and Kristen and the sort of central guys who are right in the thick of it all the way along. I feel like I kind of flit in and out. So I still feel like I can have a sense of what it's like from the outside as well as what it's like from the inside. So it's quite a sort of rare position to be in, I suppose. And also because I'm, the younger fans, I suppose, have no idea. They don't recognize me from the films, because I've got long black hair and all that, and white face. And so people tend not to kind of know that it's me until some parent goes, "See that guy over there? He's in Twilight," and then they go, "Ah!" and go crazy. They have no idea who I am or what character I play. But that's quite funny. So I do feel like I've got a slight sense of the inner and outer, and and like you say, through my daughter, she was just a little kid when it began, and she'd read all the books multiple times. She was just so into it, and so now she's 13 and doesn't go trick-or-treating anymore, and as I found out yesterday, and I feel like she's really grown up with these books, as I'm sure a lot of especially young girls have, and there's so when you come to the last chapter of it, that's kind of contained within it, and I think Bill has done a really lovely job of respecting that and serving that, so that by the time you come to the end of the journey of the film, there's also a sense of coming to the end of some kind of journey for the audience as well. For a lot of these, especially a lot of young girls who've grown up with Bella and gone through Bella's journey with her, and it's very moving, I think, by the end. I mean, without giving anything away about what happens at the end of the film, but I really feel like Bill has been very, very sensitive to that. And I think Bella's journey is one that I'm sure a lot of young people can relate to, even though it's in the world of vampires and werewolves. There are plenty of vampires and werewolves in high schools everywhere, every day. And Bella's journey is one that I think in some ways, allows other people to vicariously go through it with her, but also, they are actually going through that journey, feeling things for the first time, going through really powerful experiences for the first time. And I think the journey of Bella and Edward kind of is like a little light guiding them along that path. So I think it'll be very. When I watched, I've seen the film twice now, I think, and each time we get to the end, I mean, I'm bawling. Goodness knows what 14-year-old girls are going to be feeling like. But I find it very moving coming to the end of a story like that.
Hi, over here.
Hi.
I want to talk a little bit about vampires. I want to know the research you did to get into this role. Did you watch old movies? Is there a favorite old vampire movie you have? And were you disappointed that you didn't get to bite anyone in this one?
Not on screen, I didn't. But I think you'll find. Funnily enough, when we were, because we filmed in Louisiana, and there's I think 18 new vampire characters introduced in this film, and we were all put in the same hotel. It was like vampire camp, vamp camp, and so there were a lot of kind of very excited vampires running around the place in Louisiana. With vampires, it's such a great tradition that you suddenly find yourself a part of, and each generation kind of reinvents what that means to them. But fortunately, I didn't have to do a huge amount of research on vampires because I really love those films anyway. I'm such a big fan of them. And I was just recently had the chance to meet Willem Dafoe, who did the film Shadow of a Vampire, where he played Max Schreck, who played Nosferatu, and so there's a kind of so Willem in that is great. I think he's fantastic in that. I love Gary Oldman in Coppola's Dracula. I love that kind of look and what he does with it. Frank Langella, of course, who I did Frost Nixon with, was a wonderful Dracula as well. So there's some fantastic the Vampire Killers as well that Roman Polanski was in. So I love all those, and it's wonderful to it's like vampires and Nazis. I haven't played a Nazi yet, but you sort of you join the pantheon of all those. I'm looking forward to my camp Nazi next now after I've given my camp vampire.
In the back, can you compare playing RO to playing Tony Blair, and what different skill sets? What different skill sets do you have to do for either one?
Well, one is a slightly self-delusional psychopath, and the other one is Arrow. So, only joking.
Soundbite.
Yeah. Funnily enough, when I was because I watched it again yesterday, and there was one moment where I realized that when Arrow is trying to sort of convince all the other vampires about what they should do about this child, and he's trying to kind of persuade them, and he's being so disingenuous and really laying it on quite thick, and trying to sound reasonable when in fact he just wants to kind of cause havoc and mayhem. I noticed that I instinctively started using some of Blair's kind of hand gestures, which is quite funny. But they were both in positions of power, I suppose, and but I think Arrow's got an insanity, the depth of which goes way beyond Tony Blair inside.
Michael, can you talk a little bit about the battle scene, what it was like to do, and also what's been your strangest encounter with a Twilight fan?
Well, the battle scene, I think we shot for. I seem to remember being on one, because it's set outside in a forest. I thought, we're going to be in a forest for weeks and weeks and weeks. So bring all your warm clothes, get ready for that. And when we were doing the costume design, I made sure, because if you have a bit of pre-knowledge, I've learned from my experience that if you're going to be somewhere cold, and doing a lot of night shoots and that kind of stuff, you want to have a warm costume. So I made sure that my costume was like layers and layers, and it was kind of cloaks and really heavy things. And then, of course, I turn up on day one, and we're in a studio. And, it's all CG, green screen and all that. So I was boiling for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we were just, on this snowy set, and I remember all the other poor vampires, because we were all, my Team Arrow were at one end, and then the other lot were down the other end. And we were like miles away from each other, so we couldn't even talk to each other when we were filming. We just had to stay like at either end of this thing, of this huge set. And these poor vampires having to stand around for ages and ages. And at least for me, I was involved in it all the time. I had something to do, but a lot of other people just had to stand there forever. And then I don't know if you've heard about this, but there was this towards the last day of the battle scene. And I think it might exist on the DVD, maybe when it comes out or something, I don't know. But there was this huge dance that happened where the Kellan team had choreographed a dance, and as they said action, and we went to do this big sort of standoff, they suddenly went into, I think it was Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, and a whole choreographed dance routine, which was fantastic. So that kind of broke the boredom for once. And what was the last part of the question?
What's been your strangest encounter with a Twilight fan?
My strangest encounter with a Twilight fan. I do remember being, I think I've talked about this before, but I remember being in a changing room in a store here in LA, and I think I was, buying a new pair of jeans or something, and I came out of the changing room, just to look in the mirror, and I think there were like two 13-year-old girls who I don't know how they knew, but they had found out that I played Arrow, and they just screamed at me as I came out, and I thought, I'll take these jeans, thanks. These work. I'll take two. But that was one of the strangest ones. Yeah.
Michael, can you talk a little bit about your post-Twilight experiences? I see you've got a Showtime series and also a new romantic comedy. Can you talk a little bit about your work since wrapping this?
Yeah, sure. Well, since wrapping this, because we shot both films, at the same time, so this feels like a very long time ago that we wrapped this. So I've done a lot since then. But recently, I suppose, I did the film with Tina Fey called Admission with Paul Rudd as well, and where I got to once again take on the role of Tina Fey's British bonkers boyfriend. That was great fun. We shot that around Princeton, and it was lovely to work with Tina again. So that was brilliant. And I did the pilot for a Showtime show called Masters of Sex, which we'll start shooting the first season in January, I think. I play a character, a real person, Bill Masters, William Masters, of Masters and Johnson fame, for anyone who knows them. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be exciting. Yeah, it'd be great. No, the mustache was just for you. Well, it's November, but to be honest, I really don't need an excuse. This is the thing when you're an actor, if you've got a slightly rubbish look or a slightly off look, people assume that it's for a character. No, it's not for a character, I just like it. But I can get away with it because everyone goes, it's for a character, he's an actor. It's for a character. Clearly he doesn't want to look quite as knobbish as that in real life. No, I do. I even slightly waxed it this morning for you all. I've become a sort of 1950s cinema commissionaire. That's the kind of look I'm going for today.
So the last question right here, please.
Hi, Michael. If you could go back in time to just before you joined the franchise, what advice would you give to yourself, either about the experience or something that maybe you would have done differently?
I think I would probably give myself a good talk about, I probably would have gone into therapy just to prepare myself for what it's like to be on set with some of the most attractive young people around in the world today. Because there's nothing like being around Rob and Kristen and Ashley and Nikki and everyone to make you feel like an old fat Welshman. Because, when you look at the makeup, you're supposed to look pasty. You got the white makeup on, and so it's really not an attractive look for the slightly older generation in the film. For the younger ones, they look fantastic. They all look sort of pale and interesting with their cheekbones. I have to kind of wade through about 10 inches of subcutaneous fat before I find a cheekbone. So that was a bit tricky, because you sort of stand around with everyone, and just by osmosis, you sort of feel like you're a bit more attractive because you've been around these attractive people. And then you get back to the makeup trailer and go, ah! And see yourself in the mirror. And that's quite scary. So I probably would have given myself a bit more of a talking to about that.
Thank you very much. Thanks. That was very entertaining. Thank you.